Hey folks, I'm Dennis. Today I'm going to show you how to change the oil in a Honda Shadow VT750 American Classic Edition motorcycle. I've got a 2003. Generally all of them are the same, and I think the 1100 Ace American Classic Edition bikes are also the same. I can't swear to that, but I believe that they are very close anyway. You can do this job either with or without a motorcycle lift. I have a motorcycle lift, but today I'm going to do it without the lift so that everybody that does not have a lift can see how to do it. So let's get started. The first thing you want to do is crank the bike, start it up, and let it run for just a few minutes. You don't want to get the bike too hot because you got to work around the pipes. You also want to warm the oil up just a little bit so that it drains better. So I'm going to do that off camera. I'm going to start the bike up, let it run for 3 or 4 minutes probably, and then shut it off and we'll start draining the oil. Okay, what you're going to need to change the oil is you're going to need a 17 millimeter wrench or ratchet and socket, some 1040 oil. This is what I use. I'm partial to Valvoline oil. The trick is with the oil on this bike is there's on the back of your oil jug there's a circle. You have to use SG or higher. On this particular oil you'll see it says API service SN, so that's fine. But here's the other trick. The bottom half of this circle is blank. That means this is not energy conserving oil, and that's what you want. Some of your oils they'll look like this. And at the bottom it says resource conserving. You don't want that. The resource conserving oil has additives in it that are incompatible with the clutch on this bike. So make sure the bottom part of that circle has nothing on it. The next thing you need is an oil filter. I use a K&N filter on mine. It's a KN 303. The reason I like the K&N filters is because they've got a nut on the bottom, on the back, that helps me get it out of there a little bit easier. You need to have 2.5 quarts of oil. I don't ever change oil without changing the filter, so with filter and crankcase you need 2.5 quarts. The other thing that you need is you need an oil pan that will fit under the frame of the bike. My bike is stock on the rear suspension, so it's set, the frame right here sets about 5.5 inches above the floor, but my drain pan, which is right there, is about a 4.25 inch deep drain pan. The wall there is about 4.25, so it fits up underneath there nicely. So just make sure that your drain pan is shallow enough to fit up underneath the bike. If not, you're going to need a lift or another drain pan. Alright, so looking at the left side of the bike, if you come up under the bike and look right there, right there is your drain plug. It's a 17 millimeter bolt. Counterclockwise to take it out, let that drain into your oil pan, and then come out and go right back here. That's the back of the frame. Come up underneath here, and there's the oil filter. I'm gonna drain the oil out of the plug, the crankcase first, and then I'm going to take the oil filter off. Put a new filter on, put the plug back in, and then fill it up. I showed it to you from the left side, but I'm gonna go to the right side to film it because that's the high side of the bike, and it's easier for me to get my camera in there. But you'll be able to see what I'm doing. Okay, so this is from the right side of the bike. My drain plug is right here, like I showed you from the left side, and then here's my oil filter. So I'm gonna slide my catch pan up underneath the drain plug, which is here. All right, we'll take my 17mm wrench and put it on the drain plug. And then I just broke it loose. It's normally not this cumbersome, it's just a little harder to do while you're filming around or working around a camera. So then you back the bolt out. Let that drain. Here's what that's what the oil plug looks like. It's got a fiber washer on it. I think Honda recommends changing that washer out every oil change. I don't. I change it out about every 3. But you can go online to like Honda Parts Online or something like that, and you can order a bag of these. They come in like a bag of 2 or 3, I think, and they're cheap. You could probably get away with just cutting out a rubber washer or something, you know. But I order the Honda ones and they work out fine. One of the reasons I like this oil tray, I can let my oil continue to drain while I come over here and get my oil filter out. Most of the time, honestly, you can spin them off by hand, but just for illustrative purposes, I'll show you why I like these K&N filters. If you can see it on the camera angle, I don't know if you can or not, but I take my wrench and put it on that filter nut, that nut on the back of the filter. Just give it a little turn to break it loose. Get it on there. It just makes it a little easier, that's all. Hopefully you can see this. I know I'm probably kind of in the way with the camera, with my hand, trying to not be too much in the way. So spin that off. The oil that's in the filter will also drain out. Now you'll see I'm just down to dripping on the oil plug. So I'm gonna go ahead and put it back in. Don't drop that plug in your oil tray or you'll have to go fishing for it. Get it finger tight. What I do anyway is I get mine finger tight and then I go back and wipe it off. The owner's manual says to torque the filler or the drain plug to 22 foot-pounds. So I'm not going to show that part on the video because if you're doing this, you probably know how to use a torque wrench, and if you don't have one, it's not going to matter. So if you have a torque wrench, torque that drain plug to 22 foot-pounds. If you don't have a torque wrench, just snug it up with your wrench and don't over tighten it because you don't want to strip out the crankcase, but get it snug. So, you know, on a typical wrench like this, that's 10 inches long, 22 foot-pounds is going to mean you're going to put about, just off the top of my head, about 25 pounds of force on the wrench. So now same thing with your new filter. Now you got to put your new filter on. On the crankcase side, there's a rubber O-ring on the inside lip of these K&N filters, and so you want to lubricate that. So what you want to do, and we'll just set it right there, that's the top of it. I'm going to dip my finger in my old oil and just get a dab on there. That's all I'm getting, just a dab. And then I'm going to run it around this O-ring like so, just to lubricate that O-ring. I just want enough to make sure it's not going to pinch up on the crankcase and not seal. It's got threads in the middle. That's what goes on this this stud that you have coming out of the crankcase. So get it up here, try to not bump it on anything that you don't have to, and spin that on there. And the owner's manual says you tighten the oil filter to 7 foot-pounds, which ain't a whole lot. So if you don't have a torque wrench, my recommendation is get it up to right here to where the O-ring is touching the crankcase and you can feel it, and then do it about 1/4 to 1/2 a turn past that, and it'll be fine. It won't leak. Alright, so that's all we got to do up underneath other than checking for leaks once we put the oil in. So now we're going to go up to the top side. Okay, so on the right side of the bike, right here in front of the rear pipe, is the dipstick for the oil. So I'm going to zoom into that. Okay, so right there is the dipstick. It unscrews, and then here's the cap. You got 2 marks. You got the bottom and the top, and you want your oil level to be somewhere in between those 2 marks. We're going to fill it up with 2.5 quarts. I keep all that pretty clean, but if that's dirty before you change it, before you pull the dipstick out, wipe all that off with a clean rag. I don't have a funnel that really like fits down in there all that well. It's just a regular oil change funnel, so I end up having to hold it. Probably a longer neck funnel would do better, but I don't have one. So, well, I don't have one that I want to use for oil anyway. Now I would recommend either, measuring out 2.5 quarts, or that way you know when you're exactly on it, or like on these Valvoline jugs, they've got each quart marked off. So I'll pour a little bit and see where I am on the back of the jug with the quart marks, and you gotta air between a little low or a little full. It's better to be actually a little low, as long as you're between the 2 marks on that dipstick. Put the dipstick back in. I actually like to run mine for just a minute. I don't think they tell you to do this in the book, but I actually like to crank mine up, run it for just a minute to make sure that the filter has gotten full of oil. Then check the oil. So I'm gonna shut the camera off, crank it up, and run it for like about 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes tops. Shut it back down, and then we'll check the oil. Now that you've run the bike for a couple of minutes to fill up the oil filter, if you have the bike on a lift, it's already going to be vertical, so you don't have to worry about this. If you are not using a lift, then you're going to have to get on the bike. If you're working on it with shorts on like I am, be careful of the pipes. And then hold the bike vertical, straight up and down. That's the only way you're going to get a good reading on the dipstick. Have an oil rag. Take the dipstick out, wipe it off. If you want to put something, over your pipes or whatever, so you don't get oil on your pipes, you can do that. Screw it all the way in, take it back out, holding the bike vertical all this time. And then you can check your oil on the dipstick. ideally you're at this high mark with your oil. If not, then you want to be somewhere between these two marks. If you're too low or not on the dipstick, obviously add some more oil to it. I would add oil until I get up to the high mark, but just not overfill it. Once you're on the high mark, then you're good to go, and bike's ready to ride. Thanks for watching my video. I appreciate it. Check out some of the other videos on my channel. They might be helpful to you. And please subscribe and give me a like if you would. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you back soon.